Okay, so I'm going to keep this intro brief because I made the mistake of going way too long with the last video. So we're just going to dive right in. This is Nick Godejohn, Gypsy Rose's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, probably.
That's what you're talking to.
Hi.
Oh, okay. Hello.
Hello. So you've been here a long time waiting on me to get here?
Oh my gosh, have I ever been?
I tried to get here as fast as I could. Are you tired?
I have stayed awake the entire time.
Okay. Well, I'm going to talk to you, and I guess you said you wanted to talk to me, so
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right.
Yeah,
All right, I'm sure you have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
You probably
Okay, so right away, if you watch the Gypsy Rose interrogation video and then you click over directly to this to feel that contrast, it's so clear to me the way that I experience him, Nick, that I believe this is authentically how he is. It doesn't feel like there's any effort in manipulation or image management the way that you get with Gypsy, that performative aspect of a lot of her gestures, her vocal intonation and stuff like this. And even to say, like, I stayed up the whole time, there's this very, like, open, honest transparency about him where it feels like he somewhat lacks the ability even to manipulate. And I know that he has autism, and I believe he was also diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, which is kind of a controversial diagnosis, and not all practitioners believe in it. But clearly, on a human-to-human level, just listening to him, watching him, our little spidey senses get perked up, and we know that there's something not quite neuronormative about this. Is that the way it's said? So, yeah, you get what I'm saying.
want to know what's going on with Gypsy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to answer your questions for you. Did you get something to eat?
No, they offered that to me.
But you didn't eat?
I ate something before that.
Okay, what did you eat?
They're called ham sandwiches. I guess they offer that with mayonnaise as well.
Oh, do you like mayonnaise?
Well, I don't like them with bologna though, so it's just the mayonnaise. But not when I just left alone because I've been like so worried, sick with it.
And he's handcuffed. We saw Gypsy. She was not handcuffed. Her hands were moving all around, comforting herself. He is covered the way that Gypsy was covered with her blanket, but she got this nice little couch and a blanket, and she was free to move her hands. And at this point, they must have suspected that he was more of a risk or something, that they're putting him in cuffs and she wasn't. And like, that's what I'm saying. The mention of mayo, like, that's so childlike. And there's not a bone in his body that is like, she's gonna have pity on me if I bring up something as naive and innocent seeming as there being mayo on a sandwich. Like, he's neurodivergent, clearly.
Gypsy?
Okay, we're going to talk about Gypsy.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Gypsy, okay?
Okay.
Because I know you got a lot of questions, and I want to answer your questions, and I want to...
Also, the sharp contrast of the first thing, we're a minute in, and he wants to know how Gypsy is. Like, I'm going to try my best to be objective about my commentary in this. I haven't made it a secret on my channel that I don't believe that Nick Godejohn received justice. It seems very obvious to me that we're dealing with an individual here who doesn't have comprehension beyond like a 7 or an 8-year-old, and so much sympathy and whatever was given to Gypsy for having those deep psychological scars and being in arrested development for the trauma that was inflicted upon her. And yet someone who naturally is differently abled, who presents like this, is not given any sympathy or context or anyway. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is I'm trying to do my best to sound objective, but I fully know that I inherently have that bias where I don't think justice was served in Nick's case.
I talk to you and see what's going on. Okay? Before I do, I'm going to read you your Miranda rights. Have you ever been read your Miranda rights before?
And even the detective seems to understand that she's dealing with someone who's to a certain degree incapacitated, or not able to understand things on a neuronormative level. I'm sure I'm botching that, but the way she lilts up like this as she's talking to him, and it doesn't feel condescending or forced the way it does sometimes with Gypsy's interrogator. Also interesting to note that he speaks with a female and Gypsy speaks with a male, and I wonder if that decision had to do with them being together and kind of this already looking like a Romeo and Juliet thing, but not in the essay predatory sense, but in the sense of, forbidden love and whatever, young man and woman.
Sometimes they do it on TV, and the way I do it's going to be a little different than probably what you've seen on TV, but it's probably about the same. Okay? All right.
She understands that he needs that level of explanation and illustration. Like, I don't know, man. It pisses me off. Honestly, it brings back the feelings that I had when I covered the Menendez case, where it's like, why is it okay to extend certain grace to female survivors of abuse, whether that's physical, mental, essay, but we don't extend that same grace to men, young men, whatever. It's a problem. I think it's a problem.
Can you read and write?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some questions I already know the answers to, and that's one of them. I know you can read and write. So whenever I'm talking to you, I may ask you some questions I already know the answers to, okay? Okay? Will you fill out this top part for me?
Sure.
You got handcuffs on?
Yes, I do.
You care if you want me to take them off? Would you be more comfortable?
That would be polite if you did.
You see how he sings? Yes, I do. Sorry, brightening. Okay. I'm losing light here. I've been talking for too long. Yeah.
These things
Have you had them on a long time?
I've had this entire time.
Okay. We'll take them off so you can get a little more comfortable.
And again, that just feels like he's reporting the facts. He's not putting a spin on it. He's not fishing for sympathy the way that we see Gypsy doing. It's like, just, this happened, you're asking me about it, and now I'm reporting the facts.
That probably feels a lot better, doesn't it?
Oh, I have been waiting for that for a long time. Alright, so
it says Nicholas. You go by Nicholas, something different?
I prefer, usually by my family I'll be called Nicholas, but by friends and other people I usually be called Nick. Usually.
What would you like for me to call you when I'm talking to you today?
Nick.
Nick? Okay, I'll do it.
Usually by my family I'll be called Nicholas, but by friends and other people I usually be called Nick. Usually.
What would you...
So he wants a friendly rapport with her.
Would you like for me to call you when I'm talking to you today?
Nick.
Nick? Okay, I'll do it. That's your address.
Okay. Oh, jeez. Oh, too much.
Getting a bit overwhelmed by trying to recall his address. Y'all, seriously, Okay, and I'll make this disclaimer because there's always morons on the internet. I shouldn't even address it for those morons, but whatever. Sorry if I'm sounding angry. Anyway, I clearly do not condone in any way, shape, or form the violence that Nick or Gypsy enacted onto her mother. In no way, shape, or form. They are not the judge, the jury, the executioner. Her mother, Dee Dee, did awful things to Gypsy, and in no way or shape or form did she deserve that fate. I wish there was a parallel universe in which Gypsy left, whether it was Nick or with someone else. I wish she would have run away safely and started a new life and sought help, serious professional help. That's what is missing in so many of these complicated, entangled trauma abuse situations. Is there's such a dire need for intensive professional help, and I wish there was ways that we could make that help more accessible to people beyond, the suicide hotline or what have you. But all that to say that still doesn't take away from the fact that, and I'll do a video on this later where I'm actually talking about the facts and not just looking at interrogation. It doesn't take away from the fact that the person who concocted the plan, the person who had the true motive or originated the motive, the mastermind of this whole ordeal was Gypsy. We see in cases, and again, I know I have to refresh myself with the facts, so take this with a grain of salt, but we're so used to seeing cases where there's a hit put out for someone, a hitman that's hired, and the hitman ends up getting a lesser sentence than the mastermind of the crime. And I'm sure it's a culmination of things. Nick, I don't remember this interrogation, but I'm willing to bet he's not going to throw Gypsy under the bus the way that Gypsy was. I think Gypsy ended up throwing him under the bus. So she sold him out. They got her cooperation before they were able to get his. But anyway, it doesn't change the facts, which is without Gypsy, without Gypsy's motive, without Gypsy's need to eliminate her mother, I believe she would still be here today. So that gives you an idea of to what degree Nick played a role in this. Not to mention his limitations, right?
I include my Big Ben and all the rest of...
Is it just Big Ben? Is it? You just put Big Ben there.
Okay.
I could probably figure that out.
Yeah.
He's asking the detective how to write his address. Y'all, like...
Is it Ben or Bend?
Bend.
Oh, okay.
Bend is Wisconsin.
And then this right here is your date of birth?
Okay. 5/20/89.
And how old does that make you?
26.
26. Okay. Right here is schooling. So that is like, did you graduate high school or?
Yes.
Okay. So
That's as far as I've gotten.
okay. So just put HS or high school or something there, just so that way I'll remember, because sometimes I forget things. Social security number right there.
393.
Like, if we cut this out and photoshopped something around it, we would think that he's signing up for a personal training session, or like he doesn't even seem to have the ability to like fully process the amount of shit he's in right now. Yeah, it's hard for it to not piss me off.
042284.
And then here is the date.
I lost track. It's been so long.
I think it's the 16th. I don't have my phone with me, but I believe it is the 16th. You know what? Let me go look real quick, okay?
Please do.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, please do.
All right.
Okay.
I'll go get the time and the date.
Okay.
Is the door ajar? Wow. Okay. Okay, so at this point, he's not cuffed. The door is ajar. He glanced back, seemingly out of curiosity, to see what was going on, and then lost interest very quickly. Yeah, this to me doesn't look like the mind of a calculating criminal. Now, don't get me wrong, there are messages between Gypsy and Nick that reveal more. Oh man, I really need some light here. Sorry. Hopefully that works. There are messages between them where this sadistic side he had is readily apparent. Here's what I make of that. And I'm not trying to make him seem like this uber innocent and he did nothing wrong. That's not what I'm saying. I'm making a case for, I don't believe this man, when they talk about like knows the difference between right and wrong, I don't think he has the ability to understand that there was something wrong in doing something right. Meaning, he was so loyal and protective of Gypsy. I believe that was the only relationship, or whatever you want to call it, he'd ever had. And he thought he was doing something honorable by protecting her. And we've seen this over and over again, where usually a woman portrays a violent, abusive situation that she's in, and there's this white knight sort of dynamic of this dude trying to rush in and rescue her, and totally believes everything she's saying and whatever. So I definitely think it plays on a certain part of a male's psyche, or, masculine psyche. So what was I saying? Yeah, so regarding the sadistic, like, I'm going to kill that pig, or I forget what it is, but there was definitely like awful things he said. I think for him, the way that toddlers, young children channel their anger in this very imaginative way of there being villains and heroes and dragons that need slaying, my sense is that was his level of understanding of it. That almost like in a video game or in a storybook. And whereas when you watch and listen to Gypsy, you have just the sense of like how much more with it she is, and probably even knows what date it is, and would never hesitate unless it was for manipulative purposes to recall what her address is. So in short, which is so hard for me, Gypsy plays the mental aptitude of what Nick actually seems to have. Right? So when we're talking about culpability and understanding the difference between right and wrong, I think that has to be weighed in heavily, especially if you're going to say, oh, well, Gypsy gets a pass because all this abuse was done to her, so it affected her in XYZ ways. Okay, well, what about somebody who clearly, even though he hasn't endured abuse that we know of, we have no idea of knowing, maybe the evidence is somewhere, I don't know, that he's still, the end result is the same. He's still delayed in Arrested Development, has an inability to fully comprehend and understand. Go for a couple more minutes.
I've been wanting to talk to her for a while because I want to know what's going on.
What?
Yeah, I said that I want to talk to her. I've been wanting to talk to her for a while because I want to know what's going on.
Okay, so I think what he said was, I've been wanting to talk to her for a while because I want to know what's going on. So he's, I think, if I heard that correctly, either rehearsing what he's telling her or talking to, this goes to the DID thing, the dissociative identity, talking to some other voice and explaining to that voice why he's cooperating and talking to this detective because he wants to find out what's going on.
It is the 16th.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. He was in a conversation just then, right? Watch. In some internal dialogue.
It is the 16th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so wherever he was when his gaze was over here and he leaned forward, he was engaging in a conversation that we could not hear. And it wasn't for performative purposes. He kind of snaps out of it and gets with the program when she presents in real view. But I'm going to sound like a broken record. Come on, y'all. Like, clearly, there's psychological issues here. Serious psychological issues.
There you go. Right there.
And was it the Parkland shooter? It was like a JCS video that is like infamous in terms of like him feigning insanity, and it was a lot of the like trancer stuff and like woo, woo, like looking over here, looking over there, like just foolish, pretending to see stuff and talk to stuff. You see how different this is? That it felt like a true private moment, that the moment that the investigator was there, he snapped out of it and was like, oh, we can't do that anymore. Okay. Get right or whatever. He at least understands that I'm sure he's been taught, like, you know, you're talking to whatever, like, stop doing that or whatever. Like, it doesn't mean he doesn't understand any social mores and stuff, but.
There.
And it's June, right?
June, yeah.
Okay.
June 16th.
Alright. So, 6, 16, 2015.
And it could have been they saw the injuries on him, and that probably is what pointed to his culpability and might have been why they cuffed him.
All right. The way we're going to do this is I'm going to read each one of these out loud to you. If you understand it, then just initial after it, okay?
Okay.
All right. Before we ask you any questions, you have the right to, you must understand your rights. If you understand that, then put your initials right there. We'll go through each one of them together.
Okay, because...
You see how he still, like, has the physical memory of the cuffs being on, and that's interesting.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
If I may ask. Is it okay if I put it right there after you read them all to me?
We have to do them one at a time.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's just so I can make sure you understand each of them.
Okay.
Just your initials. Yeah. Just.
And that doesn't feel like he was trying to get out of something. That feels like he was trying to follow directions better than the directions she was giving him.
Just like that. Okay. The next one is you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court.
That's a little different than on TV.
Yeah, I told you. You have.
Y'all, that was like a genuine laugh, you know? Like, that's like a child, right? Someone who's in a room, who just had his handcuffs removed, who's having a detective read his rights to him, who's being interrogated for murder. And he's giggling at the fact that it's a little different than what he's seen on TV. And it's an authentic giggle.
You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before he asks you any questions, and to have a lawyer with.
And we know that because it lasts, right? Like, remember the Gypsy, if you saw the last one, Gypsy's emotional performance, like, dips off. And then, you know, she revs it back up and it dips off. And this was a genuine laugh that had a natural completion.
With you during questioning, right there. If you can't afford a lawyer One will be appointed for you before any questioning if you wish. That one was right there. Okay. If you decide to answer questions now without an attorney present, you can stop answering questions at any time. Okay?
Yeah, just rush through that, right? Yeah, I really wish I could go back and tap this dude on the shoulder kindly and say, lawyer, stop talking.
Okay.
All right. Sign right there. Initial that if you understand that. And can you read, Nicholas?
Yeah.
Another question I knew the answer to, but I went ahead and asked it. But if you can read.
And she naturally speaks to him in this very young way.
This paragraph right here to me out loud, and if you understand it and agree with it, then you can sign this paper.
Okay. I have. Okay. Please forgive me for
No,
awake
you're
for so
fine.
long.
You're fine.
Okay. Alright.
He's apologizing to her for like not being a better reader.
I have read this statement of my rights, and I understand what my rights are. I'm willing to make a statement.
Okay, and there's a big difference, right? Between being able to read words and comprehend them and comprehend the gravity of them. In my non-expert, humble opinion, I don't believe he understands his rights.
And answer your questions.
Here.
I do not want a lawyer at this time. I understand and know what I am doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, and no pressure or
Coercion.
coercion. I've never been able to say this word at all.
If she has to tell him how to pronounce it, what do you think the odds that he understands that?
Do you know what it means, though?
Isn't it mean like a form of punishment?
Yeah, or trickery or anything
Oh,
like that.
okay.
No, it's not a form of punishment at all. Trickery is not a form of punishment. Forcing someone, pressuring someone, coercion is very different than punishment.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, coercion of any kind have been used.
Like he knows it's negative, right? Which in his mind, that's like, oh, punishment. But again, that's just a very clear example of he does not understand this.
Against me.
If you understand and agree with it, then you can sign it.
All right.
And you see that like moment of hesitation where he looks at her and in his mind, he's probably thinking like, I don't understand it, but he's kind of got this like also obedient nature to him, which is different from the people pleasing that we saw with Gypsy, which feels like much more of an external manipulation, but his seems like just naturally kind of, I don't know if you want to call it agreeable, go with the flow, open to instruction, guidance. Okay, just a few more
And I've got to
seconds.
sign it too.
Okay. Oh, as a witness. Okay.
Yeah, they always make us sign them too.
I always sign it as Nick. Because
That's
the
fine.
only way I know how to sign it.
All right, thank you.
The only way he knows how to sign it. And think about how long it took to get through these versus with Gypsy. The detective just read them right off to Gypsy like that, lickety split. And he knew he didn't have to take extra pains to make sure she understood it because cognitively he could understand that even though she spoke like a little girl, that there was nothing really wrong or different about the way that she processes information. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. I'm so sorry I only got through 7.5 minutes. If you're interested in seeing me talk about this interrogation some more or the Gypsy Rose or both, leave it in the comments below. And other than that, I'll see y'all next time.